there. Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming blacksmithing. Today, we are going to be starting a brand new project. That project is a raising stake or a forming stake, however you want to call that. I already have the forge going and have had it going for about the last 15 minutes because this is a very large chunk of A2 that we're working with today. This A2 is off of this block here, and I did actually cut that today, so I'm a little bit tired. So you may see me sitting in the chair instead of, having the board on the chair. I might actually be sitting today just because to take a little bit of the strain off. So yeah, we are making a forming stake. So the design is kind of this guy right here. I don't know if you can see that very well. I changed marker colors, so hopefully you guys can see that. So the design is basically, it's like a stick, and it's got a round bulb on the end, and this is so that you can create or take sheet metal and create bulbous forms out of it. And then the other side has kind of like a point, and this is so that you can take that bulbous bottom of your vessel and put a flat bottom on it. This section here is designed to kind of put that corner in there. So today we are making the tool that will allow us to do some vessel forming, possibly some armor. And yeah, so welcome to the stream, everybody. Hey Sandwich, hey Mahalo, hey Ping, hey Corwin. Welcome to the stream. So I believe I have everything set up to go, so that once the metal is hot, we can get a move on. So the piece of A2 that I currently have is, it's 8 inches long. And so we're going to try and bring that from 8 inches to 12 inches long. So we're going to be drawing out the material. And I'd like to create like a little bit of a hardy section. This may end up being welded on later. It's kind of, maybe I don't know, we might be able to start forging it in. We may have to weld it on later. We'll kind of see as we go. My last stake, I ended up wrapping it around the stake that I ground. I haven't done as much forging on like the last stake I made. So this is the last one we did. And if we end up welding the piece on down here at the bottom, it'll be made out of this guy. This is what we cut off of the hot cut. Morning, y'all. Hey, Lexi. Welcome. All right. So we have an ad coming up in a few moments, like seconds or so. And then we can talk a little bit more about what is going on. Alrighty. Ad time. Wow, you guys are here early. We've got 9 people already. Goodness gracious. That's super exciting. I always love it when you guys come early because then, I feel a little bit more, there gets to be a little bit more back and forth that I can, talk to you guys directly. And I don't have to make up as many topics usually. Sometimes you're a little bit quiet, and that's all right too. I can come up with plenty of topics to talk about. But it's always nice to have that back and forth. It makes it easier. My headphones are feeling really sound cancelly today. So there's a couple like different ways that I can orient them and allow me to hear a little bit more or a little bit less. And I mean, I feel like a little less is probably better, but I can't hear myself very well that way either. So yeah, we are back from the ad, so I can continue talking. I have a few things that I need to talk to you guys about as far as like housekeeping kind of things. So today's YouTube video is out. It was out at 10 a.m. this morning. It is about our grill fork that we made on stream several weeks ago before our quad state trip. So that one is out and ready to go. I put a lot of extra effort into this one. I actually kind of made the B-roll shots move a little bit, you know, because we have like that, you know, the tight camera that's just, it's very static because I'm actively working and it's just sitting on the tripod. Well, I have the ability, because we have a 2K, or we record in 2K and only output in high def, I can kind of zoom in and out. So I have kind of made the shots move a little bit. So hopefully that gives it a little bit more quality, and you probably won't notice it too much, but maybe. Just because I wanted it to be a little bit more interesting to watch. So next week's video, it will be out a week from today on Wednesday. That one is on the junior blacksmithing competition at Quad State, and I got to talk to one of the competitors, and I got permission from my interviewees' parents to post that up. So I'm super excited about that, and sharing that interview with you guys. So that will be next week's video, and I'm now starting on the week after's video, which, you know, that's how it goes. You finish one and you got to go on to the next one. Let's see. So today we are on the last of this propane tank. On Friday we'll have a new propane tank, but this one might be a little bit on the emptier side. It shouldn't be too bad because we did spend most of our time, or a good chunk of our time, using the mailbox, so we shouldn't run out completely. But I do have some more propane tanks with the dregs over there in case it freezes up or something. Let's see. Do I have anything else? Not really. I spent a couple days working on getting some things together for some stuff that I can't really talk about right now. Hey, Yankee. I guess I am renting a P.O. box in case I need it for more item reviews, or if you guys wanted to send me anything or something like that. So I should have my P.O. box by tomorrow. So if there's ever any reason that you want to, send something or whatever, you can PM me and we can work something out. So yeah. Mom, what are mailboxes used for? To save propane, of course. Well, that mailbox, right? I'm renting a P.O. box, which is like, a little mailbox, and that's so that people can send me stuff, right? So I've got both, I've got the mailbox forge and I've got the mailbox for, bills and stuff. Fan mail, baby. So I'm pretty excited about that. We've been thinking about doing it for a while, but it's not something that we're going to do. And then a few things have come up recently where I needed to give out my address. And so I think that it'd be easier if I had a P.O. box. Please don't send propane to the mail office. You know what? It is illegal to send explosives through the mail, and technically propane is an explosive. So it is illegal to send propane in through the mail. Ray said she burns all fan mail. I don't know. I mean, it depends. It depends. If it's fan mail or hate mail, I'll read the fan mail, but you know, I might use the hate or any hate mail I get as kindling. So you know. So yeah, I don't have the actual number for the post office box yet, so I can't give that to you yet. I should have it tomorrow. Hopefully, fingers crossed, unless something crazy happens. So what else did I do yesterday? I mean, like I said, I finished up editing stuff. My, today's video and next week's video, and I've done a few other things recently, but not anything too exciting. Let's take a look at our steel. This is a 2-hand block of steel. So this is our steel that we're working with today. So it is a giant block of A2, and so it's going to take quite a while for us to draw that down the way that we want to, but we'll get a good start. So today might be a little bit more boring, or on the boring side of, forging. You're not really going to see a lot of the shape, or a lot of it taking shape, because I just need to draw it down a little bit before I start shaping it up. But yeah, that means I've got more time to kind of talk to you guys, and we can entertain ourselves that way. How much does that chunk weigh, would I guess? See, I knew that someone was going to ask me how much that chunk weighed, and I wanted to take an actual weight of it, but then I realized that the butler got rid of all of our scales because I had some issues with weight when we first got together. And so we've never gotten any since then. So if I were to guess, I would say that it's at least an axe and a half. So at least 8 pounds of metal. That's like a big guess. But it's heavier than the brick that I used for the axe. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 pounds, I would say. Let's see. I don't know. I think it needs to get a little bit hotter, and then we'll get started. Like I said, it is going to take us a little bit of time for it to actually start moving, because the A2 is a really hard and difficult to forge metal. There's also some really sharp corners on this piece, and they actually lend a lot of strength to it. So it's normally hard, or hardness is going to be exponential, because of those hard corners. Hey, Chris. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. So, yeah. I hope that we make decent progress today, but I'm expecting this project to take probably 3 full weeks of streams. And I mean, like I said, if you can see the design, it's relatively simple. But I do believe that it's going to take a while just because it's such a hard material. It's going to take a little bit of time to heat it up and to get it heated between our forgings. Flutagon. It's not actually a flutagon. This one it's just a rectangular brick. So it came off of this guy right here. So you can see its profile. and it's kind of wide like this and skinnier on that side. We're actually going to be doing the majority of our forging in this direction. And that is because I really like the width, or like the height, I guess, is what I'm going to call this. It's a decent width for a bowl. But this is too wide, or I guess, yeah, too wide. So I'm going to use the end to kind of create this bulbous section here. So we're going to do a little less forging there. And then I also want to use a little bit of this to kind of give us the start of the hardy section, the section that you kind of like grab a hold of to, you know, anchor it in place as you are using the tool. So, this tool is not necessarily designed specifically for the anvil. I want it to be a little bit raised, so the post vise is actually a much better height for this particular tool. For forming, I enjoy doing that job while I am standing, and so I want when I'm hammering for making armor or making bowls, I like about chest height is where you want it. There is actually a specific grip that you would need to use with your hammer, right? So every hammer job kind of has a different hammer grip. So for forging, it's kind of, you know, a looser grip so you can whip the hammer. But you know, you want to make sure that your thumb isn't on top of the, you know, the handle. Otherwise, you'll start straining your thumb. Well, you do actually want a grip like this when you're forming. So it's two different grips. I was thinking A33. Did you mean D2? Because that really does suck to hand forge. No, it's A2. It's an air hardening tool steel. That is like, I got a whole bunch of it from my local steel supplier as offcuts for really, really cheap. So it's super, super hard, but it is forgeable. It's not the most forgeable steel in the world, but if you're really determined, you can make it happen. Fair enough. I've never seen that one. Yeah, like I said, it's kind of more of an industrial steel used for heavier duty tools like I can't even, I mean, like, I would say jackhammer bits, but that's normally not A2 either. But this is like super, super hard tool steel. It is at the very fringe of what I am capable of forging in my shop. So today is a lot warmer. It kind of warmed up over the afternoon yesterday, so I was pretty excited about that. I'm not gonna freeze. Jackhammer bits are usually S2 or S7, I think. Yeah, and I mean, that's, for whatever reason, I wanted to say D2, but yeah, it is S7 or S2 that is jackhammer bits. This is hard like that though, like really, really hard. So you'll get to see how fun it is to forge today as we do this. Let's see are we hot enough? Like I said, it's been in there for probably 20-25 minutes already. Only one air steel I've used is H13. I have a hammer I dripped out of that, and my Holland 190, but I don't forge that. Or I didn't forge that. Yeah. Like I said, it's not something that I would recommend you go out and seek, or like that you go seek out to forge. Like I said, the only reason I got it is because I got it for like dirt cheap or as like offcuts at my local steel supplier. And they don't really carry a lot of tool steel. It was readily available and I can carry it off site right then and there. So this block has lasted me for a really long time. I've just been cutting things off of it over time. So like I said, I don't recommend that you go seek it out, but it does make some amazing tools if you can manage to make it move. All right, I'm going to attempt to do a first heat. We'll see how well it goes. So when I cut this guy off of the big old brick, I noticed that it actually said 4140 on the end of it. It said A2 on the top of it, but it said 4140 on the end. And I was like, there's no way. It would be nice, but there's no way. All right, there we go. We have made contact. You can barely see that there is a tiny bit of movement that's going on, especially in that first smash. So like I said, this is going to take us a little bit of time to get this going. Once we get going though, it'll move a lot easier. But it's going to take some doing at first. So like I said, we got a little bit of movement, not a lot. But as it squishes more and more, it will go a little bit faster. We gotta warm up the die so that we can keep more of the heat in the material. And I think maybe we'll do a little bit shorter heats. I think I did like 3 or 4 squishes on that one. I think maybe we'll stick to around 2 at first, just to keep that heat in there so that it's not, or it doesn't take as long between heats. This is another thing is that it's a really heavy block of steel, so I'm using my pickup tongs and they're working beautifully for this job. However, it's kind of like a two-handed brick, and so I'm kind of, it's moving a little bit. So if I can get it to close really nicely on the brick before, or like, then I'm able to work it a little bit easier. So like I said, the design over here, we want it thicker towards the one end So it is, the brick is still a little bit wider than I want it to be. So we are going to be starting at the tip and squishing that down just a little bit. And then we will be isolating off that ball area and drawing out the rest of the body shape. So, but it'll take a little while to do this, like I said. I also cut this piece a little bit longer than I think that I need. I think that 6 inches would have been enough steel, but I want to make sure that I get the amount of draw and length that I want. So what we're going to do is we are going to focus in on the distance between the ball and the stock here. So we're going to focus on drawing this out. Once this section is drawn out, we'll take a look at how much is left, and we'll cut off the back end so that it's not quite as long, so that we don't have extra material. I want this tool to be incredibly balanced. It's going to help us in the long run. So yeah. So I saw Mahalo posting a bunch of pictures in the Discord of the Aurora Borealis. Over the past 2 days, it has moved from, south into the continental United States. And so I keep seeing pictures of that. I've seen them all day. So did anybody else get to see that last night? I mean, I hear that you're going to be able to see it again tonight, and then it might even be stronger tonight than yesterday. So I'm really excited. I'm hoping that if I can maintain enough energy or, rest enough, that by, the time that the sun goes down and the butler gets home, maybe we'll take the van out into some fields and see if we can't spot some. I was too lazy, says Corwin. There were some beautiful colors. There was a lot of reds and greens in most of the pictures that I got to see. Mahalo specifically, and then I have several other friends on my Facebook that are further north, and they were able to get some really good greens and reds. I saw pictures from southern New Mexico. You should have seen them there. Yeah, so I would have been able to see them here if I was not a couple blocks away from a mall. And, they're on the horizon, you can still see kind of a little bit of light pollution from the city of St. Louis. So, because everything over there is just so bright on that horizon. So if I want to see the colors, I have to go a little ways out and to some more farming rural area. So I'm hoping that we can do that tonight. I think that it would be so cool to see. And I think that the butler would probably really like to get some photos. So we might do that. If nothing else, I can just sit in the van and watch from there. So I'm pretty excited. I'm hoping that we can go out. We've been training the cat to go in the van and not freak out. So the other day we actually took him to go get a pizza from the Little Caesars. And he was fine until we got to the Little Caesars, and then the butler got out to get the pizza. And then once he got out, then the cat just yowled, and he yowled the rest of the way home. So I don't know. We might try and bring the cat. We might not. Totally worth a field trip. See, I think it would be too. I've never actually been able to see the Aurora Borealis. I've never, made it that far north. So, and I saw on TikTok, and because it's TikTok, I don't know how much or how true it actually is, that the sun's like magnetic fields that it shoots out that create the aurora borealis, it's going to calm down in the next couple years. So it will be less, you will have less of a chance to see them after this year, is what I heard. Now, like I said, I saw that on TikTok, so you never know. There's a lot of crazies on TikTok that post whatever they want, so I don't know how true that is. Especially since the butler knows all the camera tricks. Yeah, so the butler has the next newest in the line of the cameras that I have here. And they like to do long exposure photography. So they'll do like 1 to 2 minute exposure shots sometimes. I've actually seen them do like 10-minute exposures at times. So we'll see what we can get. Yeah, the sun is on an 11-year cycle and it's most active in the last 2 years. That's kind of what I saw on the TikTok. So it might be harder to see the aurora borealis in the next few years. So seeing it now after it's gone so far south, you know, I'm pretty excited about it. So we've got an ad starting up in about 2 minutes. And once that ad is done, I'm going to do another heat. I want to allow the, you know, about 4 minutes or so, 3 or 4 minutes or so to maintain that heat, to let it soak into the material. And then we'll do another heat. This is going to be really, you know, patience. Patience wins the race, you know. So yeah, it'll be fun after I finish this project. So our next major project, so like, I guess our next series of projects is we're working our way up to being able to make some pauldron or a pauldron. So a little bit of armor, and I think that'll be really exciting. So we're making the tools that we need in order to make the armor. So hopefully, you know, we've got a slow start, but it'll get a lot more exciting as we keep on keeping on. Our next project after this one is going to be the hammer that we use to make the shapes that we need. But that'll be, you know, throughout the next couple of weeks, maybe months. We will actually be taking a slight break closer to, like, I think my current plan is Black Friday. We're going to be doing some jingle bells on Black Friday. That's my current plan. It might change because that's a couple weeks away, but that's the plan. Jingle bells for Black Friday. So the ad is supposed to start at any minute now. My timer is never amazingly accurate. It'll like tell me I have 2.5 minutes, and then after the timer runs down, then it tells me that the ad is starting soon. And then it just sort of like starts whenever it feels like it. So I never know exactly how long it goes. There it went. There it went. So I'm finally starting to get a little bit of adrenaline going and pumping through my veins. Like I said earlier, I actually cut this piece, this giant piece off of this block. And this block is probably about, you know, 30, 35 pounds. And I used the same bandsaw. So then the bandsaw was like super dull because we used it for the 4140 for the axe. So I had to replace the blade. And so that was quite a bit of effort on my part. So I'm a little bit tired. but I'm getting a spike of adrenaline, and we're gonna go, and this is gonna be great. And then I might regret it tomorrow, but today we're gonna have some fun. Yeah, it's nice and hot. We're ready to go as soon as that ad break is over. And here we go. Let's try this. We're getting more squish. I'm gonna try and keep it relatively clean as far as scale is concerned, because that scale is gonna come off and it's gonna bite me. I want to make sure that it doesn't do that. So you can kind of see it's actually moving. It's not wanting to move, but it's starting to move. I see things are heating up in the stream. You could say it's too hot to handle even. How are things going? They're going pretty well, actually. It's moving a lot more than I thought it would be in the first couple of heats, so I'm pretty excited about that. And so most of what we're doing is we're just drawing out this bar, making it thinner, and turning it into the tool that we need. Today, I am not anticipating using the anvil at all. We're going to spend the entire stream just going back and forth between the forge and the press, because this is such a stiff material that if I sit here on the anvil, the hammer just bounces all over the place, and so does the material. So the best way to forge this is to use the press. Too cold to hold. I mean, you know, it's too cold to forge right now. But I think it's too hot to touch. One of the fun things to do though is, like, you know, when you're just being like cheeky, is dip your finger in the like the quench bucket and get as close to the material as possible. I wouldn't try that with something this big, but like if you got a regular bar of steel, you know, you can almost touch that, or you know, you can get almost close enough to touch it. You've got that little droplet of water and it kind of vaporizes, and so you don't actively touch it, but it almost looks like it. So it's kind of fun to do that sort of thing when you're demoing, but I don't recommend doing it unless you're like very experienced and, you know, when you when you're getting to the point where you're experienced enough to do it, it's a great way to really burn yourself. So don't do that. Don't be dumb. So I've been getting a lot of comments recently on, or AKA, do not try it or don't try this at home. Yes, don't be dumb. Always good advice. I do like surprising people at a demo with a little water on the anvil. Isn't it fun? It's just kind of like if you put water on the anvil and you got any scale at all whatsoever, you put your hot steel down there and hammer it and it just sprays, because all of the scale will just like pop off. That steam just kind of instantaneously vaporizes it, and it just like blows off all of the scale. So it is kind of fun, if a little scary, when maybe less scary to an experienced smith, but to the crowd, it's exciting. So recently I've been getting a bunch of comments on the TikTok and the YouTube that say I don't hammer hard enough, that it looks like I'm scared to hammer the metal. And I don't know. Do you guys think that I'm scared to do I not hammer the metal hard enough? Am I too scared to hit the metal? I don't know. I think it's just people blowing smoke, but sounds like fun. Like we used to throw ice into the deep fryer. Yep. Wasn't that smart in my youth? It does make quite a loud pop. Yeah, because it's that instantaneous transfer from the liquid to the gaseous state, It's just like, so fast. So I don't know. Maybe I do hammer a little bit too soft. I kind of reserve my really heavy blows for the press so that I don't have to expend the stamina for it. But I don't know. Maybe I should do like a full stream of like full hits for some kind of like, larger drawing or something. People say that though, and it makes me wonder if it's because I'm, a woman. So I don't know. All right, how are we doing on heat? I think we're all right. Let's do another heat. Down a little too early. There we go. not the best heat I've ever done. The sound is deadened too, so they don't know what the blows actually sound like. When you watch Brian work, it looks like he's just casually dropping the hammer on the piece, but it's just perspective. I think so too. Hard to tell on video how hard you're actually hitting it. Are they expecting a loud ring? And I mean, that might be the case, but we do use a sound deadening method, so I don't know. Tell them to hammer harder. Hammer how you think you should. Yeah, it's happened a few times, so it made me wonder for, half a second. But then it's like, I realized that, if I don't need a full blow, it would be reckless to use a full blow, right? So, because you use the hammer blow that you need to move the amount of material that you want and to make the metal do what you want. So there are, you got to be able to calibrate yourself anyway. So like I said, I try to be a little bit more efficient, and the really hard ones, I tend to use the press because the less effort that I put out myself, the more time I can spend out here with you guys, and the less exhausted I am when I come in the house. Then I get to actually enjoy the rest of my life. I mean, I love being out here, but it's also really nice to go for hikes and, to be able to go grocery shopping without feeling awful at the end. Probably people who have been watching too many movies with fake blacksmiths. I can tell John from Old Hickory Forge is hitting hard, but he often wails on big billets with a 6-pound hammer and says, nothing to it really. Yeah, I mean, I use the 3-pound hammer all the time because, I feel like the 2-pound hammer is a little bit too light for me anymore. But anything heavier than this, and it just starts taking a toll on me. Like the 2-pound hammer, I really needed to use it when I first came out here last year, but I've gotten a little bit more strength up again, and so it's getting a little bit light again. So that's really exciting. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's the internet, People always have opinions on the internet, whether they have real ones or not, or whether they really know what they're talking about. Let's see. We're starting to get a lot of heat soaking into this billet or this piece. So it's going to take a little bit less time between the press and the forge now. Between retiring and moving to Australia, I spent a month at home getting my stuff in order. I forged every day. My forearms still hurt 6 months later. Wow. Just pick up the anvil and drop it on the piece. Maybe that's enough. Man. That would be one heavy blow, one single blow, but it'd be a heavy one. So for our next heat, I'm gonna flip this over. You can kind of see on this side where we've actually made a little bit of progress. It looks like my dies are starting to shift. So I'm gonna flip this over so that we can correct that a little bit, but I also need to move my dies, secure them a little bit better. I see it squishing. The way your van is set up, you might be able to do bedside blacksmithing. Yeah. That would be so fun, except it really wouldn't, because I think that I need the leverage from standing to get a good hammer blow, you know? Oops, too far. Alrighty. Should be nice and central now. Now we can re-secure our bottom die. It decided that it was going to start shifting a little bit, which makes the squishing a bit uneven. There it goes. Nice and tight in there now. But the entire machine kind of, it vibrates just a little bit, just as the nature of the machine. And so over time, I have to always tighten my my clamps because they start to loosen, and so the dies start shifting around. I do feel like if I were to use a typical farrier setup off the back of my van, so usually farriers actually have their forges attached to their trailer hitches, or like they kind of rotate out of the van, or their trucks. And if I were to do that, I would be very worried that I would set my bedspread on fire. Need double nuts, maybe. That might work, but what I use now is just a C-clamp to hold the bottom die in. The top die is a little bit easier to do. I do have a C-clamp holding that in, but I also have a wedge. Typically, most power hammers and presses just use wedges, and that you just hammer the wedge in and it holds it really nicely. Well, because my bottom dies, I have two different sizes. So I need to make sure that the slides are thick enough that I can use both sides, or I guess both sizes. One of these days, I just need to make all of my dies the same plates. That way I won't have to have a fatter one. Oh, it's a clamp. Thought it was a bolt. Yeah, it's a clamp. Just a C-clamp. Because I'm lazy. And originally I was going to bolt them in. I even put holes in the base plate that's welded to the machine itself so that I could bolt it on with wing nuts. But I never could get them to line up properly. Boss wants me to give them the clamps. Yeah. Put them in the clamps. All right, I'm going to put that under there so I don't knock it off my anvil while I'm standing here. I do that a lot. I'll knock things off of the anvil because I'm trying to shimmy through here. Because heaven forbid I go this direction. When I could, my cat's like that too. If I'm opening the door to a room and the cat wants to get through first, he always goes through the tiniest little space between the door jamb and my leg. Even when there's a giant gap on the other side, or, you know, between my legs. He wants to brush against me and trip me. It's how it works, you know? It's on purpose. I know it's on purpose. He just wants the attention, you know? My dog was like that too. But when she went out every day, you know, to go to the bathroom into the backyard, she was so big that if I wasn't careful, if I didn't have a good grip on like the door jamb, she'd knock me over. She was so lovable though. That's the only, you know, concern that I ever had, is that she'd get too excited and knock me over. So I talked to you guys earlier about how I'm planning on doing a Black Friday stream where we make jingle bells, because I have the plans for sheet metal jingle bells. So they're kind of like ninja stars that you kind of dome out and then fold in. So I think those are festive and they're fun, but is there anything else that you guys would like me to attempt to make that's like Christmas themed? Do you guys want more Christmas themed projects this year? I kind of feel like I have enough time to actually plan that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I could come up with a couple different projects if you guys are interested, and we can kind of intersperse them for something a little bit more festive. Crimbo sheet. Yes, Christmas. Christmas is coming up. And if you're from the United States, so is Thanksgiving, the turkey holiday. Candle holder ornaments, a leaf, or a leaf. I don't know where I got leaf from wreath. A wreath hook. I mean, we can do all kinds of that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't, like I said, I kind of want to intersperse them. I don't want to do like a necessarily delay a lot of the bigger projects, but I mean, we could definitely do a few, at least 2, maybe 3 days of festive projects if you guys are interested. Turkey for those meat haters. Oh, tofurkey. I've never had tofurkey. I wonder. So the butler cannot process tryptophan, which is the chemical in birds like turkey and chicken. It's that chemical that makes you sleepy if you eat a lot of it. Well, the butler can't process that, so it makes them incredibly ill. I wonder if tofurkey would work. Normally we do like ham or a beef roast. Spark lightning through metal canvas and crimbo. I'm told that Aussies do Christmas at the beach. I'm wondering how that will go. What can you craft to keep Krampus away? I don't know. I'm not amazingly familiar with the legend of Krampus. So, like, you guys would have to teach me about him. I know that he, like, puts naughty little kids in a bag or something like that. At least that's what I thought I heard. But yeah, you'll have to teach me about Krampus. We have about 2.5 to 3 minutes until the next ad. I think I'm going to do one more heat trying to see if I can't beat that ad. Krampus takes care of the naughty list. Interesting. We don't really talk about the naughty list as much, you know, because all of our kids are only good, right? I'm going to turn this around so you guys can kind of see what we did that heat, because it kind of happened on the opposite side that you guys weren't able to see. So we made a pretty good amount of progress there. I'm pretty happy with that. We are starting to get to the point now where we are going to have to decide which side is up and which side is down. Ooh. I don't know. Like I said, I always have to go through this section instead of that section. There's all this space over here. And then I always catch my leg on the horn of the anvil. Because I'm right-handed, and I don't know why, but I'm just always used to having my horn on this side of the anvil. So I feel like these tongs are working relatively well, but I still have the rotation problem. I tried to fix that by cutting in the little grooves so that it's not a single point that's touching the sides. It's like 4 little points. And I was hoping that they would have enough grip to prevent the rotation, but it's not working the way I wanted it to. I'm gonna change the camera angle. I haven't really been recording all of these heats specifically because a lot of them are gonna look pretty similar. But I do want a couple heats from each, you know, every so often so that I can get a little bit of progress. Goodness gracious. Fads are almost done. That's exciting. Mahalo says I'd have to wear a goalie pad around the anvil or I'd be bruised all the time. I constantly have bruises on the sides of my legs from coming through here. They're always mysterious bruises, right? I never realized that I bruised myself until like later on when I'm, putting on my pants, or you know what I mean? I find them and I'm like, where did I get that from? And it takes a little bit of effort to remember that I slammed my thigh on the horn of the anvil. I'm still trying to figure out what side I prefer the horn on. The way I have it now, it keeps my hand away from the hardy hole. I kind of feel like that's really a personal preference sort of thing. I've seen a lot of blacksmiths who, they either way. And I've seen other blacksmiths that it doesn't even matter. But for me, I feel like I feel it's not right when the anvil is turned backwards for me anymore. And really, I think the reason for it is that when I'm working on the horn of the anvil, when I am kind of, when I'm trying to do glancing blows to curl things, I like to be able to get on the side over here, right? Because I'm right-handed and I just want to reach over like so. And if I were to try and do that here on this side, I'm impeded, right? Because the anvil's there. And so then I almost feel like I need to be like this, and then my hands are crossed, and it's a whole big deal for me. And I would rather have the ability to stand here and hammer over the anvil than, have to, because I don't have a lot of hardy tools. So that's my logic as to why I like the horn on the right side, because I'm right-handed. And it's not like my hardy, makes me feel discombobulated. I don't know. I could learn either way. I just prefer it this way. I'm out of water already. Like I said, it's a lot warmer than it was on Monday. So I feel like I need to drink more. So I will be right back. I'm going to grab a drink real fast. I've got some more yellow Gatorade. Chilling for me. Here we are. Well, you just have to learn to be left-handed, that's all. See, I so wish that I was ambidextrous. But I am hopelessly right-handed. I feel like I can't do anything with my left hand. There was a time where I was trying to train myself to be ambidextrous, but I gave up after a while. We're going to do another heat. Because of course you are. A little bit too. There we go. There we go. Now at the point where I'm going to need to figure out which side is the top and which is the bottom, so that I can start going really hard in and start isolating it out. We got to make that round shape. I'm thinking we got it in there upside down right now. I can do a lot of things with my left hand, but I'm not great at hammering with the left. Yeah, I mean, I think that part of it is that the way your brain's wired, sometimes, you know, you gotta make those neuron connections so that you can do it on either side. So many things are like designed to be easier right-handed than left-handed because people just don't design as well for left-handed people. My mother is left-handed, and so she had to learn to be ambidextrous because so many, like when she was a kid, there wasn't left-handed scissors and left-handed desks and, you know, left-handed stuff. She had to learn a lot of things right. She grew up in a school where they would like wrap you in the hands if you were using your left hand. So I totally respect left-handed people. I'm a lefty, but mostly ambidextrous. Like I said, I feel like every left-handed person eventually becomes ambidextrous because, you know, it's just more convenient to be right-handed. And so then if you're already right-handed, then you don't have to learn to use your left hand. So you are less likely to be ambidextrous if you started as a right-handed person. You know? And I'm not saying that being a left-handed person is, you know, or ambidextrous is, you know, not an inherent thing, because I think there are some people that are just ambidextrous naturally. It's just, I feel like you have to learn to use your right hand if you are a left-handed person. I've had some coworkers who were left-handed and couldn't work normally. They would have to switch the whole cell around to be able to work. So I learned to play drums when I was in high school. I think I was like a freshman or a sophomore when I started learning to play. And my instructor taught me how to play right-handed. But my mom decided that she wanted to take lessons too, and my mom was left-handed. So we had to switch the whole drum set around between our lessons. And eventually, I think my drum instructor decided that she was tired of switching the drum set around. So she's like, you guys are both going to learn left and right-handed drumming. So I don't have to move the set as often. So depending on whose lesson was first, we learned to drum right or left-handed. So that was fun. I can do it all right, but I'm a lot better drumming right-handed than left. I keep time a lot better with my right hand. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, my family is a very musical family, so like every member, well, most of the members of my family either sing or play instruments. And so my mom plays keys, and at one point she also plays guitar, and I think she's learning bass. My dad plays guitar and bass. I learned to play drums because that's what we needed for the church band. And then later on, I learned keys. It was a lot easier to write music when I was able to play the chords that I was writing. You can switch techniques while playing the same song. I mean, it's a little hard because like the cymbals are in different locations. So you've got your hi-hat, and on a right-handed set, you put the hi-hat on the left side. Well, if you're playing left-handed, you put the hi-hat on the right side. And then the floor tom ends up moving, and so does your like large crash cymbal. So you kind of have to switch the kit around. So it would be a little bit harder to play unless you had two kits. Like maybe if you were doing, you know, a right-handed front kit and you turned around and had a left-handed kit, that might work. You know, if you had two snare drums and, you know, your bass drum and your toms. All right. So, like I said before, we have to decide what side is going to be our top and what side is going to be our bottom. And I think what we're going to do is we are going to take the piece and I have been using the half round side of my dies. We're going to take that piece and we're going to use the flat side of my combo dies. We're going to flatten everything out. We're going to take a look at it, see if it moved more one side than the other, and then that's going to help us decide which side is the top and which side is the bottom. I'm thinking that would be awesome to watch. I think it would be too, until the drummer got, I think it would be fun to play until you got dizzy. You know, from spinning around over and over. Oh, it's a little bit too closed already. So let's open that up a little bit. Side of the die because I can feel the heat on my knuckles as it's closer. All right, so we're going to take a look at this now. It looks like we've moved a little bit further on this side than this side. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to designate this side as the bottom. So we're going to take this little chunk right there, and that's going to turn into the round section of our die. And we're going to start right at that crease there, right there. And we're going to start drawing that down. To create the neck. I don't know if you've ever heard of Tori Amos, but she would play a keyboard and piano back to back. I have heard of her. I'm not amazingly familiar with her music, but I've heard a couple songs here and there. She has a couple music videos that have some animations that were done by one of my absolute favorite digital artists, or I guess digital and traditional artists for 2D media, and that artist's name is David Mack. He's mostly a comic book artist, so he's done runs on Daredevil. He actually did the opening credits for the first season of Daredevil. He also did the opening credits for Captain America, like the very first one. And so that's his claim to fame, but he's primarily a comic book artist. And he's done a few things for Tori Amos, and then he's also done some stuff for Dashboard Confessional, if that's your thing. It's starting to look like a thing. I mean, it's definitely moving. We're making some progress. That's awesome. Yeah, I really love David Mack. Like I said, he's one of my very favorite 2D artists. He does a lot of collage work. So he will take like comic-sized paper, and then he'll just start gluing and taping things and doing a lot of India ink brushwork over top of it all. So it's absolutely gorgeous. He takes photos and scans of his work for the final pieces. I think he did have a show with the originals at one point. He lives in California, I think. But I absolutely love comic books. When I was in high school, I was a lot more active in collecting them. But I mean, I still have a super, super big comic book collection. I love collecting comic books. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited that we've made a significant amount of progress. It's, like I said, it's going to be a little bit slow going at first, but once we break the planes, it'll start going a little bit faster. Things will get a little bit thinner, and we'll be able to move a little bit easier. So thank you guys for being so patient with this process. Like I said, it's not the most interesting at first. But next project will be a lot more fun, I think. We're going to do another hammer. But it's going to be a small hammer. Something closer to this size right here, as opposed to, the 3-pound or the 2-pound hammers that we usually use. This is going to be like, 8 to 10 ounces. So it should be a lot of fun. And then we're gonna start making some armor. I still have to give you guys a pull. Because I want to do something kind of interesting with this armor. I want to make a pauldron, and I want to do something that's sort of pop culture related. So I'll come up with a list of possibilities. My middle daughter got all my comics from the 90s when I left. I was a big McFarlane fan. McFarlane is awesome. Spawn? Although I feel like McFarlane is more famous for his toy lines than his comics, almost. He had an entire line of Marvel statuettes and action figures, and they were in the 90s and the 2000s, and they're worth more now than they were then. Hammering. So yeah, I am very familiar with Todd McFarlane. When I first started getting really into comic books, I would buy, that was also around the time that eBay started to become a thing, right? So eBay right now, it's more like Amazon, but back then, eBay was actually a bidding website, for auctions and things, and most people would actually auction things off there. So what I would do is I would go through and I'd search comic books, and I'd go through all of these little, these ladies whose kids went off to college or and never claimed their comic books. And they were just selling the whole thing for a reserve bid of 99 cents. And so I'd go through the list of what it was, and I'd pick out like one book that I really wanted. And so then I just buy the whole lot for one book. I'd sell the ones that I didn't want that were worth something, but I got some really key issues that way. They still have auctions. I mean, I don't feel like they ever lost the ability to do auctions, but I feel like most people don't. Most people do the buy it now, don't they? I mean, I guess it's been quite a while since I've really been on eBay, but I thought it was more like Amazon now. So maybe I'm wrong. All right, let's do another heat. We're starting to get a little bit of a turn going, so I think I do need to like turn this over. But yeah, we're starting to get that nice indentation. That's where I want it to be. I have an idea I think that I might do. Let me put this back in the heat and then I'll let you guys in on my idea. I'm so old I had subscriptions at my local comic shop. Well, I do have a pull list at my local comic shop, and that's sort of like subscriptions, but it's not quite the same as actual subscriptions. So basically, I just have a list of comic books that the workers at the comic shop will pull for me, and then they'll like stick them in a bag, and I buy them the next time I come in. When I was into model railroading, I bought things from the auction a couple of years ago. Okay, that makes sense. I guess I'm not looking at the right section of eBay then. Borat69, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. Welcome, welcome. So today we are working with a steel called A2. It is an incredibly hard alloy of steel. It does not like being forged, so it takes a lot of pressure, a lot of heat, and it doesn't move very much. But it makes really beautiful tools. They're hard, they've got a lot of bounce back, and they will function very well for our purposes, which is making vessel shapes. We're taking flat sheets and turning them concave. We're going to turn the concave sheets into some armor. We're also probably going to do eventually like a vase or a bowl or something like that, just for good measure. Auctions might be more for the vintage stuff. And that's probably the case, because I haven't really been buying any vintage pieces on eBay recently. Most of what I buy on eBay is stuff that I couldn't find on Amazon. I do have some books that I was looking for, some manga, because I'm really into manga and anime as well. And my favorite manga has been out of print for several years, and there are a few volumes that I'm missing. It would be nice to have them, but you know, I keep procrastinating buying them. Yeah, limited quantity stuff works well at auction. I'll bet it does. You know, I do look a lot at estate sales and auctions or like farming estate sales and auctions, because it never fails. There's always something blacksmithing related or a tool or something that I can use for blacksmithing in these estate sales. I don't often get to go to them, but occasionally I do. That's where I got my oxyacetylene rig, which I haven't used on stream yet because I have the tiniest little oxygen tank. It's just not practical to use right now. But I've gotten a lot of other tools out of auctions as well. So we have an ad starting in about a minute and a half. And so I think once that's done, we'll probably do another heat. We are getting to the point where, you know, every few minutes we should be able to get some work done. So while it's not exciting because we're not shaping things quite yet, we should be getting a little bit more work done now. Let's see. So like I said, I think this project's probably going to take us about 3 weeks. So about 9 streams. I'm hoping that I'm overestimating that and it only takes us about 2 weeks, but I know myself, and if I say it's 2 weeks, it always takes 3. So I'm gonna preemptively give myself some extra padding time. We don't have a lot of work that we need to do. It's more because it's such a hard material, it's going to take some time to get it done. I think for my next heat, I might actually do it or turn the piece 90 degrees and kind of flatten out the opposite side because we are starting to get a little bit of warping. If I can remember, that's what I told you guys I was going to do. A lot of times I forget that I tell you guys what I'm going to do, you know, and then like I do something completely different than what I said I was going to do. Hey, Asanaton. I am doing pretty good. I don't know if you can see this though, because I'm currently under ads. So I will repeat that greeting after they're done. Yellow Gatorade is not my favorite flavor. I always complain about it. It's like I bring it on myself too because I buy them in 32 packs with 3 flavors. I get blue, yellow, and red. And I always end up turning it to the blue side. So then I do blue, and then I do red, and then I do yellow. And so all of the yellow, I drink at the same time. And I feel like I should just like mix them up. Hey, Santa, welcome to the stream. I'm doing pretty good. We are currently working on a forming stake. The design is right here. This is kind of what we're trying to do. Right now we have just like a rectangular block of steel. So we are now, I promised that we were going to flip it 90 degrees to kind of flatten out some curves that's happening. But we are going to be putting in this round bulbous section here and drawing out this neck section. That's what we're currently doing. It's slow going because we're working with A2, which is an incredibly hard air quenching tool steel. Hey, Bluesy. Hello, welcome in. All right, let's do our next heat. We're gonna turn this 90 degrees. That's what we said we were gonna do. So I think I'm gonna hold it like so. That way I have less rotation. And then in here like so. Always with the rotation. Alright, we got a nice flat going now. So we're doing pretty good. We're going to keep on keeping on the sides. Right in this area right here, we're going to go really deep to get that bulbous area and start drawing out the neck. Oh, a forming stake. High stakes there. Man, that feels so slow. It is an incredibly slow press. Unfortunately, when I built this press about 10 years ago, there weren't as many plans out on the internet. So I looked and I found the most promising set of plans that I could find, and then I built it. And about 6 months later, I found the plans that people often use with the log splitter, where they convert it into a press. So yeah. I got some more firewood to put up before dark. Good luck. Have fun. Hope you can experience the fun Aurora field trip. Have fun, Mahalo. Thank you so much for joining us. Be safe. Don't blow out your back. I wonder if you got your husband to use a sledgehammer as a helper, if it would be faster. It depends. It depends if I, it depends on how accurate those hammer blows were, right? Because if the sledge doesn't come down exactly where it needs to, then it could cause more issues than, than I want. So, I mean, maybe it would, but it doesn't really matter because the butler is at work usually while we are streaming. So, yeah. Out of curiosity, what steel are your press dies made of? They're actually made out of the same stuff, A2. And that is why they have held up so well. They take way more heat in order, or like it would take more heat for them to deform than your typical like die material. So they could take a beating. Just gotta train him. Something like that. Have you ever used one of those rolling presses? I have, but not in a blacksmithing capacity, right? I don't have a lot of like heavy equipment or access to a lot of heavy equipment here in my blacksmithing space. But when I worked as a jeweler, also when I was in college, we had rolling mills that we were often tasked with using. So if I needed like some flatter sheet, if I needed to thin down some wire or some bar stock, like tiny bar stock for jewelry making purposes, I often got to use the rolling mill. So those things are amazing. I love them. I just don't own one. I mean, I do own a rolling mill, but it's a roller bender, not like a squishing rolling mill, right? So my rolling mill has 3 rollers, so it is specifically designed to roll, not to flatten. I saw it at the knife demonstration I went to, and I was drooling over the rolling mill. Yeah. I will say, though, that the rolling mills that I used, because they were for smaller scale pieces, they were not electric. So they were hand cranked. You get a lot more control doing that. But, you know, it's not as much pressure and it's not as much speed. So I do love rolling mills. I just don't have one. I don't know what I would use one for, though. It's not really high on my priorities list. Maybe I need to adopt a street kid and teach them the apprentice boy. Maybe. I've had a lot of people ask me to be my apprentice, but none of them have the time when I have the time. This one was electric and took a 1-inch coil spring to 3/4 inch in no time flat. Yeah, you can do some incredible things with the electric ones. Like the heavy duty industrial electric ones, you can do some amazing stuff with it. I've seen some guys use them to forge weld Damascus billets or like pattern welded billets. You know, like that initial first stack, it works so well for that because you get that even pressure as it rolls through, and it works pretty well. Master, hello. Axe head has been finished. It has been finished forged, and I've already started grinding it. So you can kind of see here. This is just a regular flat grind on a bench grinder. I still need to go up the grits on it, and then I also need to go inside of the hole. But I will do that this weekend. I'll work a little bit more on it. But yeah. I've got it all nice and flat ground. All the planes are really nice. I've got a blade kind of ground in a little bit. It's still a pretty dull blade, but I want to make sure that it's not too thin because I still have to temper it, harden and temper it. Looks cool. Great job. Yeah, thank you. I had a lot of fun making it. But yeah, I still need to do the heat treatment cycles with it. So I'll probably go through a couple different grits of sanding before I heat treat it, but I'm not going to go all the way up because I still need to like sharpen it and things like that. So we shall see. I don't know that I will be heat treating it this weekend, maybe next. I don't know. It kind of depends. I have to clean off my heat treating oven. So it's not quenched yet. No, it's not. Yeah, I still have to do that eventually. But I also don't really have a good oil quenching tank right now. I had one at one point, but it was made out of a PVC tube, and that wouldn't fit in there even if I had kept it. I did get rid of it after I moved from my old house to this one. All right, let's do another heat. To be honest, I'm a little bit less concerned about doing the heat treat on that because it's not really going to be a usable axe. It's more a wall hanger. So we're making some progress, slowly but surely. A big coffee percolator works as a quench tank and has a built-in heater to heat the oil. That would be really cool if I drank coffee. I don't actually have a coffee pot. I'd have to go and get one. I do actually have a whole bunch of like little of things, or I have a couple of extra propane tanks that have been they're not usable as like actual propane tanks, so they're like all rusty and stuff. So I think that I should be able to, if I carefully like drill a hole in them and wait a week, I should be able to open them up. If you saw one at a cheap garage sale or a thrift store. Are we having fun yet? I'm putting a hole or a handle on a hammer. I don't know. Are we having fun? I'm having fun. I'm having fun talking to you guys. Today we're kind of doing a little bit of metal processing. Our project right now is the forming stake. So I've gotten to the point where we're starting to form this round bulbous area, and we are starting to draw out this neck between the bulb and the base. So it's working slowly, but it's also super, super hard material. I have only used a bucket with room temperature oil. I need to make a quench tank next to the forge so the forge heat would heat the oil. My hammer? You're making me a hammer? That is so awesome. Thank you so much. And I will get you the P.O. Box number as soon as I get that. I should get it tomorrow. I had to make sure that I got the right size But now they're asking me for 2 forms of identification, and when I went to the mail, like the post office, I only had 1 form. I have my driver's license, but they want 2 forms of identification, and all I had was my driver's license. So I should get it tomorrow. Let's see, what was it? Oh, I was gonna tell you guys, I have this idea, and I think it's gonna work pretty well. Once we really start laying into this neck portion, I think what I want to do is actually flip one of my dies backwards, right? So I've got combo dies on the press. We've got the half rounds and we've got the flats, right? So normally what we do when we're drawing stuff out is we use both of the half rounds. But because we want to isolate out this material here, if we rotate one 180 degrees, then we'll have the flat on the bottom and the half round on the top, or vice versa. And we should be able to keep a nice flat side and get that drawing down at the bottom. So that's my idea. It may or may not work. I'm thinking that it's going to start curling it eventually, and we may end up having to do a few heats here on the anvil to kind of straighten out the curve that's forming. But I think we should be able to do that. So I will have that going not tomorrow, on Friday. We'll probably do that for a few streams so that we can make sure that we get that nice isolation with this strong flat back. Can you not go there? Say hi. I identify as Ray. This is one form of identification, and here is my driver's license. Yeah, they want a picture ID, which is like, you know, it's like your driver's license or your passport or like your military ID or whatever. And then they want one form of non-picture ID, and it has to be official. So it's either a car title, a car insurance, like physical, like paperwork, or like a deed to a house, or like a rental agreement or something like that. And I have no idea why they want that. But I think that they want to make sure that you actually have an address is why they want that, the non-picture ID. So like, I have to make sure that I don't know that the car title, or the title of the car that I was driving, it wasn't in the car. I mean, I have like the thing that goes with the like the sticker or whatever, but I wasn't sure that I was on it. So a P.O. box. I'm trying to rent a P.O. box so you guys can send me fan mail and things. And then I've been getting a few people inquiring about doing product reviews and things like that. So I'm trying to open up a P.O. box, and they want 2 forms of identification. So I have to dig around to get like the non-picture ID, because I had my driver's license. I just didn't have the second form of ID. Isn't your address on your driver's license? It is. They just want 2 forms for whatever reason. So it's weird, but they have this whole form, and they're like, you know, you have to have 2 different forms of identification. And at the time when I went today, I only had 1. So because like I have my insurance like for the truck, and it's under my name, but I only have it digital. My insurance company has like a phone app, and like you have the digital insurance proof card or whatever. So they want paper, and I didn't have a paper card, so I've got to like scrounge through some paperwork. So I'll have it tomorrow. I just don't have it today. But yeah, we're gonna hopefully do a few more product reviews and things. So show them. If they want paper, tell them to go or to get with the times. See, I think they actually want like to be able to photocopy it or something. I don't know. I didn't ask. I think I'll probably actually do the paperwork part online, and then all I have to do is show up at the post office and show them my ID, and then they'll give me my number and my keys. Their problem. Yeah, something like that. It's like government bureaucracy, you know? They got to make it hard to do things that you need to do. So we're starting to make some progress. We've got a nice chunk isolated there. We're going to keep on keeping on. Depends on the government. For example, I've heard the German government is the worst and want everything in paper. Whereas here in Finland, you can do most paperwork online. Yeah, like I said, I can pretty much do the paperwork I need for the P.O. box online, but I still have to show up in person to show them my ID or my 2 forms of ID and to like get the keys. Because these P.O. boxes have keys as opposed to combinations. They also have different pricing models. So like on site, you can only pay 6 months at a time, or 6 months or a year. And online, they also have 3 months. That is a sexy hammer. I gotta say, Ray will probably put it under her pillow at night to keep it safe. Will I? I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it until I open it. Yeah, I suppose they want to verify that you are in fact a person and in fact have something to tie you in as a person. Yeah, I also think that it's a little bit of a case of, what do I want to call it? I think they want you to make sure that you're not homeless. Because the reason for the non-picture ID is so that they can confirm that you actually have an address that mail comes to. So, yeah. I think it's so that you don't just get or as a homeless person, get a P.O. box and then start using that as your street address. So we have an ad incoming in about 3 minutes. So once that ad is over, I'll probably do another heat. I want to make sure that I have plenty of heat in the piece before I use the press again. It's a proof of residency, like getting a CDL or whatnot. When you're getting a driver's license, you kind of have to have a non-picture form of ID as well. So like you can use 2 pieces of mail and your social security card, or like, but those 2 pieces of mail are very important. Perhaps that, but I think it might be more to check that you are trying to make a paper company. Not gonna lie, I'm using a store-bought handle. All my handles are store-bought handles, including the one that I put on the one that we made on stream. And I really wish this wasn't a store-bought handle, because if it was, or if I had the tools, I could have made it skinnier and it would have been easier to use. I want to use this hammer, it's just the handle's too fat. Ugh. That's disappointing. I thought you were hand making one. I find that requiring an address by the government is so outdated, though. I work from home. I do all my bills and everything. Why can't I just live in an RV and travel? You can get internet basically anywhere, and that's all you would need. I can still modify that handle, and I will eventually. Like, get with the times, government. See, that's what's happening, though. More and more people in the United States are living out of cars and RVs, and certain places they're clogging the streets, and so it's becoming illegal to do that. Yeah. You don't have sandpaper or emery cloth. I mean, I do. I just don't want to do it by hand. Yeah, the government doesn't want you to be free. I mean, that's kind of true. With love, Sancho. Thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. Thank you so much. Yeah, I know. Kids these days don't want to do things by hand. It's because if I sand stuff by hand, it's really exhausting. Exhausting. All right, so we are currently on ad time. Ad time, ad time. So I'm going to stop you right there. No politics and religion in chat, because I want this place to be safe. There's so much chaos going on. Not everyone has a goat on a treadmill to run their tools. I do have no patience. So yeah, I don't allow politics or religion in the chat because right now politics are incredibly chaotic, incredibly divisive, and I want this to be a space where we don't have to think about that. I need a respite from politics, and I'm sure all of you do as well. So we don't do politics and we don't do religion. Everyone's welcome, whatever your political leanings. You probably can't even read cursive and can't figure out hand-drawn maps. If there's ever an uprising, just use snail mail and letter written in cursive. No way the youngins can figure it out. I feel like that's the combination of like 3 memes I've seen on Facebook. I know a teacher, and she said they already do that. They write notes to each other teachers in cursive, and the kids can't read them. See, I'm from the generation, from probably one of the last generations that actually taught cursive. But the thing is, like, how many people actually handwrite things anymore, right? There was a reason for cursive before, when you were like taking notes, you know, at a collegiate or a, you know, high school level, you needed to be able to write really quickly. And so cursive made sense. But nowadays, most kids bring laptops and they type all their notes. It is. I even know steno. Well, you know what? That's awesome. But it is a dying, you know, discipline. People just they don't need the shorthand as much anymore. I got taught to write cursive, but I still write unreadable chicken feet. See, I do too. Like, I know cursive and I know printing, and I have a hybrid where I've like kind of smashed them together. And that's kind of what my handwriting looks like. And it looks illegible half the time. Every time I do these, I draw each of the letters, and they still look terrible. I'm 50 and I learned it, but then in the real world, all paperwork had to be printed. I haven't used cursive in 30 years. Well then, here is a good question. The kids all have Chromebooks these days, so why do school supply lists include paper and pencils then? I don't know. To make the teachers buy them. If you want to prevent car theft in 2025, drive stick shift. Sit down and write out the beginning of the Gettysburg Address now and then in cursive just to keep from losing it. Cursive is for intellectuals. Chicken feet for us is basically who try to survive. Oh, for us basics who try to survive. Something like that. Dr. Optimal says, I love chicken feet. Is that like, you know, chicken scratch, or are you talking about like chicken feet? Do you make soup from chicken feet? I heard you can do that. I write in cursive, so that, what does that make me? Well, obviously an intellectual. You have doctor in your name. All right, another heat. All right, transfer material. There we go. That's what I want to do. Squishy. starting to get quite a bit of movement now. I'm pretty happy with that. I have discovered in Australia that most vehicles are manual, at least here in the NT. I don't know what NT is an abbreviation for, so you'll have to let me know what that is. And more have a snorkel than don't. A snorkel? That's honestly why I learned how to type, was because my handwriting is not that great. I miss having a manual car. I feel you. Just today, I asked my mom if she owned a typewriter. So I actually did learn to drive stick shift. My very first truck was a stick shift 1980 Ford F-150. There was a hole in the floor, and my grandpa had to replace the bed with diamond plate. NT is Northern Territory. Okay. See, I'm not as familiar with like counties and like states in Australia. I'm sure it has them because I mean Canada does too, and I'm not amazingly like familiar with their states either. I have a varied collection of things. I also own a slide rule. See, I used to own a slide rule. I don't have one anymore. I think that we have an abacus somewhere in the house. But like, my family was a little bit too poor to get a graphing calculator until I was in college, and so I had to make do a little bit. I thought I lost mine, but I was cleaning and I found it. Nice. I did eventually get a graphing calculator, but you know. All right, we are starting to get towards the end of the stream. So I'm probably gonna do 2 more heats and then we'll put it up for the day. I will be back on Friday. I'm going to switch around the dies so that they're opposite. And we'll see how well that works. Australia is made up of 6 states and 2 territories. We have an old globe that has the USSR on it. My parents have one. It made geography incredibly difficult for me, like my homework. Because I didn't know in grade school that it was wrong. But yeah, fun times with vintage tools. At least here in blacksmithing, vintage tools only get better with age. You can pretty much restore any old tool and put it to use. It's awesome that way. The thing why I asked my mom if she had one, it was because I have paper that has most of my passwords on it, and that's somewhat illegible. So I would like to have them written on a typewriter instead of computer for IT insecurity reasons. That makes sense. Bailey, thank you so much for that follow. Are you Bailey or Bailey? Welcome to the stream and welcome to the community. Hello, hello. Slide rules. Back in my day, abacuses were top of the line. I'm sure they were. All right, let's do another heat. This one and one more. And then we'll end for the day. Woo! Open sesame. amount of progress, more than I thought we would. So that's not bad. It's still insecure to write them down, but my memory is not good. Hey, when I was in the armed forces, I had to learn a code or to code Kabul in the computer lab. Above the door, there was a box with glass pane, and there was an abacus in there. Under it was a sign, in case of power loss, break glass. Right? Question, can you slide your dies over so the fullers are centered under the cylinder so it quits tilting? I mean, I probably could. I guess I didn't think about it. But they are tilted weird, aren't they? Yes, I could slide them over. Also, if suddenly die in an accident, it would make it easier for my family to be able to access all the accounts. Hey, Bubba. So yes, I probably could move my dies over. I don't want to comment about my passwords. I'm not the most secure person in the world. But then it wouldn't tilt. That's true. I mean, it would probably be better if it didn't tilt, but, you know. I actually, like, when I put the plates on this thing, I had a different cylinder, and so this wasn't on this side, it was in the back, and this section, or like the stuff that's in the back, was over here, and so it was centered on the piston before, but it isn't anymore. You shouldn't comment about yours at all, especially in a stream. I know, right? Her password is 12345. That's amazing. I have the same code on my luggage. Yeah. I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad. But I am also one of those people that like store all their passwords in Google. I only use 17 different passwords. The shortest is 12 characters. The longest is 72. They all have special characters. If you've never seen that movie, you should. I don't know what movie that's from. Ah, a cultured person. Spaceballs. Oh, Spaceballs. Spaceballs. The butler loves Spaceballs. Oh, never trust the cloud with anything. I mean, I am well aware that anything on the cloud can be accessed by someone, but there was a lot more privacy in the cloud, or at least there was an illusion of privacy on the cloud when I first started doing that. I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. All right, we're gonna do one more heat. Cloud is just a term. They are storing data with everyone on the cloud. Only Lone Star would dare give me the raspberry. To be honest, any website that gives you a password has to store them somewhere, and they're stored in a cloud usually. Alrighty, there we have it for the moment. We're making some progress. It's starting to take a shape. Not the shape that we want it to just yet, but it's getting there. Oh, Ping, thank you so much for that subscription re-up. 11 months? You thought you'd bring your people. Oh, did you get rated? Did I get rated? I did get rated. I'm sorry, guys. I am just getting ready to raid off for the day. I apologize. Thank you so much, Pink, for that raid. Hi, I'm Ray. I'm a blacksmith. Today we were working on this giant block of steel. I gotta be careful that I don't swing it towards myself and burn myself. Quitter? Yeah, I'm totally a quitter. I'm sorry, guys. Man, I was already tired when I started streaming, so I really do need to take a break. But thank you so much for that raid. All good. Everyone should meet you. Yes, thank you. Hello. I do still have work to be done. So I will be back on, what day? Friday, because today is Wednesday. Wait, that's not the right one. It's this one. And we will be continuing the work. You need a helper with a mallet. Yes. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Let's see who we should raid. Anybody good on? I mean, everybody's good, but you know. Thank you guys. I think we're gonna go and raid Kinara. Because with it, she's making soup. Soup sounds good. See if I can spell it correctly. That would be awesome. Alrighty. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye. All right, that one's fine. This one needs to be that. That one needs to go there. Okay.